The Erikson stage for this chapter it's the fourth stage, human development, industry versus inferiority. So going out, completing new tasks. You're in school now, so that's where this is happening at. If you do well on school tasks, it can build self-confidence, self-efficacy. Those things are what's called industry, according to Erikson, trying to figure things out on your own. When I was a kid, for example, I used to take things apart at this stage. Like I would get broken electronics and I would take them apart, just trying to figure them out. On the other end of that, if you can't complete your homework and you just give up, you start quitting, again, maybe building a synaptic pathway of, I'm not good at this, so I'm just going to quit on schoolwork, that can lead to a sense of inferiority. All right, the next thing the book talks about is stress. I know it's kind of weird to think about kids having stress, but not only do they have stress, they're going to have way more stress in today's world, considering, they're always plugged in. I have cell phones now when they're 11 years old. Older kids create more coping strategies to deal with stressful situations. For example, if a younger kid gets made fun of, they may lash out, but while an older kid, they have the ability to suppress negative emotional reactions. Probably going to be related to the prefrontal cortex. We've talked about it numerous times. Executive function, the self-regulation, all these things, again, are interconnected. And so if a kid is having issues with those things right now, the self-regulation, this could be something that can lead to problems down the road. So it is something that should be looked at. On student learning, this is going to be similar to some things that we've talked about before. The Constructivist Approach is a learning center approach. So it's the belief that children should be encouraged to explore the world and discover knowledge with guidance and support. So basically that you are helping them to learn how to learn. Constructivist is about the process of learning. Critical thinking instead of just sitting still, passive learning, that rote memorization that we've talked about in other chapters. And it's also about collaboration, working together with others, which prepares you for the working world when you grow up. That's Constructivist. The direct instruction, this is structured, highly structured. It's teacher-centered. It's not learning-centered. It's teacher-centered. So in this situation, they like to give lectures. The students take tests. Some experts say it's best to use both approaches. So have some teacher-centered like lectures, like what we're doing right now, and then have some student-centered activities like we do. On the accountability, so we talk about the Every Student Succeeds Act. It replaced the No Child Left Behind Act. We talked a little bit about the Common Core state standards initiatives. With Common Core, what they do, they specified what students should know and the skills they should develop at each grade. And so why these were created, people wanted to know if the kids were actually learning. So they tried a couple of different approaches. They tried the No Child Left Behind Act first. They started doing the standardized testing. Critics of things like standardized testing say that it's like IQ, that it's just one number, and so it's missing out on a lot of things. Like a standardized test is not going to be measuring creativity, for example. Also, with standardized testing, and from what I understand, it's even worse nowadays, teachers have to teach to the test, and so they just give them a lot of kind of weird, random, isolated facts, because in a lot of cases, their jobs are tied to these test scores. So if the kids don't do well on the test, then the teacher gets fired. So of course, the teachers have to teach to these tests to keep their jobs. These are also national policy, but each state decides their own standards. To give an example of how this works, Massachusetts, only half of fourth graders can read. But in Mississippi, all fourth graders can read. So let me repeat this. Massachusetts, only half of fourth graders can read, but in Mississippi, all fourth graders have the ability to read. So why would that even be? How could that be possible? It's not because the kids in Massachusetts are dumb and that the kids in Mississippi are exceptionally bright. It's because Mississippi has set lower standards. So Mississippi sets these high standards and only half of their kids meet those standards, while in Mississippi, they set the standards down here so that everyone can meet the standards so that it looks like everybody's doing great. Common Core tried to standardize this stuff, and everyone's not pleased with that. As an example, you probably know about it. I saw how they did the math with Common Core, and it's like, I don't get this at all. There's a new one now. It's called Every Children Succeeds Act. They're trying to make the standardized testing a little bit less important with this approach. You might think about your experiences with these the accountability acts and how it worked out for your schooling. It's a good topic for discussions. We may have that as a discussion question. All right. After this, in the next slide, we will talk about moral development.